On today's show, what is the Capitals' best option at number 17 in this year's draft? And Brian McClellan's July 1st plans next on this edition of Locked On Capitals.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. In this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about how the first round of the draft is tomorrow and what is the Capitals' best option at number 17. I know that earlier I mentioned that Igor Chernyshov was my pick in the Locked On mock draft, but what are some of the other intriguing options? I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll talk about Brian McClellan's plans for July 1st and what his thoughts are on the draft. And then in the final segment, I will talk about Charlie Lindgren's achievements and the many things that he's accomplished in his short time playing with the Capitals. But just to get it going here, talking about the draft, it's tomorrow, Friday, depending on when you're listening and or watching this, and talking about what the Capitals' plans are for the 2024 draft. The Capitals are gearing up for the 2024 NHL Draft with a clear plan for their 17th overall pick. According to The Athletic, Scott Wheeler, the team is eyeing a defenseman or center as their top priorities for this year's draft. And I have heard more rumblings out there about the fact that the Capitals might be looking for a big defenseman, that I think they see that as a position of need in the long term. And they see that some of the players on the team might be moving on. TVR and Jensen come to mind. We know that John Carlson plays a big role on this team, but we need to kind of have our eyes set to the future as well. Talking about potential draft picks, sources indicate that the team is leaning towards selecting a defenseman, aiming to diversify the roster, which has seen an influx of wingers in recent seasons. Promising prospects such as Czech defenseman Adam Jiricek and Norwegian blue liner Stian Solberg are on the radar. With a centerman, while a centerman is not ruled out, the team's preference seems to be leaning towards bolstering their defense. And this is all long-term. You know, you take a look at it, there are prospects in the pipeline. You take a look at Chesley, you take a look at Iario, that there are other players, bigger names that I mentioned there, that could figure into the Capitals' long-term plans. But it's always good to have your eyes kind of fixed to the future and the next wave of great Capitals players. The one thing that I think is important is when it is your turn to draft, is that you draft according to the best player available. You don't necessarily try to draft for a specific position. I think that oftentimes people say, well, they want a defenseman, they want a centerman, but I think at the end of the day, you got to go with the best player that's available. Talking about the Capitals draft position for 2024, the Capitals have solidified their draft position and are set to take the 17th overall selection in this draft, which will take place in Vegas. Of course, we know the team's first round exit at the hands of the Rangers led to the 17th pick, the first selection following the draft lottery. So it is interesting to see what direction that the Capitals will end up going in and who they will ultimately end up picking in the draft. There are some intriguing names, like I spoke about there earlier, Adam Jiricek and Stian Solberg. So definitely, names to keep your eye on. And, there might be crazy things that happen. You hear about things, people trading up and all these different kind of scenarios. How it all plays out That will be interesting. The Capitals have the opportunity to put their plans into action when they convene at the Sphere, of course, in Las Vegas, Friday and Saturday. So Friday, it's going to be big. Those are the big names that will be announced. And it's going to be interesting to see in which direction the Capitals go in. I know historically they have done big things. Ross Mahoney and his crew are very dialed in and always make great decisions or good selections, shall we say, at the positions or the slots that are available. You take a look historically here. I don't ever see like, well, that was a miss or that was a miss. I think all things considered, Mahoney has done a really good job. But talking about my thoughts on who they should pick, I still stand pat with the idea they should be going with Igor Chernyshov. He possesses the potential to become a formidable power forward in the future. And I think that's what the Capitals are looking for, is a guy that is good with the puck. He is a good skater when he wants to be. There's things that he needs to work on. But I think just taking a look at the total package, that I think Igor Chernyshov fits that. Chernyshov is 6'2", 192-pound winger who has been impressing in the KHL in Dynamo Moscow. Despite not topping scoring charts, he has shown that he can hold his own against experienced players in the league, demonstrating his physicality and scoring skill. Chernyshov's strengths lie in his skating abilities, physical presence, and the knack for finding scoring opportunities. Check, check, check. Those are all the things that the Capitals are looking for. I know that there's these talking heads and these pundits that think which direction the Capitals should go in. I think pound for pound that Igor Chernyshov is a good option. I understand the Capitals also have options later in the draft, but I'm talking in particular here about number 17. While he has shown promise, there are areas of improvement, such as working on his shot, passing, and offensive abilities. With further development, he has the potential to excel consistently at higher levels. If you have not seen the footage of him, he is quite stunning. I think that he is a little bit raw. Oftentimes people talk about Chernyshov as a power forward-esque player. I don't think that he necessarily has all the attributes of a true power forward yet, but I think he can grow into it. He's still a young man. And you take a look at the direction the Capitals are going in with Leonard and Crystal. It could be quite the dynamic team in the future, especially if they add a guy like Chernyshov to the mix. Considering his playing style and potential fit, Chernyshov could be an exciting addition to the Capitals. His power forward attributes and raw potential make him a promising prospect for the team, offering a complementary asset alongside established players like, Alex Ovechkin. Overall, I believe that Chernyshov's unique skill set and potential make him a strong candidate for the Capitals in the upcoming draft. And I think that he is the best option. It's going to remain to be seen who's available. He could get selected before, or something could present itself like, hey, we didn't know this player was going to be available. We saw that happen with even Miroshnichenko. We saw that happen with Andrew Crystal, that sometimes you're like, wow, I wasn't expecting this player to be available. Then those plans can change. So interesting times for the Capitals as this team has their eye set to the future. But one of the things that we know is the prospects, and the prospect pool is getting that much better. You saw what a lot of the young players did with the Hershey Bears in particular. The last 2 seasons, back-to-back Calder Cup winners. That is definitely a mark of which direction this team is going in. When your young players are accomplishing great things, like winning back-to-back Calder Cup champions, that shows that you are drafting well and that you are sitting in a good position for the future. So exciting times for the Capitals. It remains to be seen exactly who they select. But of course, keep it locked to Locked On Capitals, as I will have you guys covered the entire way. All right, so coming up here after the break, we will talk about Brian McClellan's plans on July 1st. Does he have any big trades up his sleeve? I'll discuss straight ahead. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to you as customers. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you the can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Brian McClellan made a big splash and it traded Pierre-Luc Dubois to this team, or I should say Darcy Kemper went out to the Kings. The Capitals got Pierre-Luc Dubois in a big move that has had kind of mixed reviews. Initially, I thought, I'm not hearing really great things about him. I hear that he's not good in the locker room. I heard that he had a rough season last season with the Kings, but then I take a look at the back of his hockey card, and historically he has been a great player. And many people already have him sketched out for being on the top line with Alex Ovechkin at the center position. And hopefully there's chemistry between Dubois and Alex Ovechkin. Again, I think Dylan Strome could battle him for that, but I think that it could even get a bit more interesting, as it does appear that Brian McClellan is leaning towards being active on July 1st for free agency. And you take a look at the players that are available. He was talking with Mike Vogel. I watched the video today, and he said, we have our eyes on a couple players. We've made offers on a couple players, not offers, but, kind of kick the tires to see what's going. But that there are some, conversations that have taken place between a couple players. And if they can come to terms with a deal, then it'll get done, that kind of thing. But if you take a look at it in the names that are out there, I think the Capitals could stand to be in a much better position after July 1st. Heading into the 2024 NHL Draft, the Capitals are strategically positioning themselves to be proactive in roster improvements, as explained by GM Brian McClellan after the recent acquisition of PLD for Darcy Kemper. McClellan emphasized the team's continued efforts to fortify their lineup through free agency and potential drafts. Talking about roster improvements, McClellan emphasized that the team is actively seeking opportunities to enhance their defensive composition, as well as bolster their forward lines with impending changes in the roster due to unrestricted and restricted free agents, including the uncertainty surrounding TJ Oshie's future. The Capitals are poised to address these potential gaps and what direction the team is going to go in. I've talked about that on the show, that if there's one thing that I wish Oshie would do is, if he thinks he's not going to be able to come back, then let us know for sure right now. But I think that it's still a bit of a work in progress. What has been said about TJ Oshie is that he wants some assuredness, some promises that he is going to be good to go, that he should be able to play a virtually painless season. I don't think he wants to put himself through what he's been through historically. So I think that he's looking for some sort of guarantee from a specialist or a surgeon. But if he knows sooner than later, that would help the Capitals. Talking about defensive optimization, furthermore, McClellan acknowledged the possibility of revising the team's defensive unit to optimize its performance. He highlighted their availability resource and expressed confidence in the team's ability to make strategic moves, supported by their draft capital and expected salary cap flexibility. So there is some options. We saw what happened last summer. It was Patch Reddy, it was Joel Edmondson. Two moves that didn't really garner a huge response from Capitals fans or just in general. It didn't generate a whole lot as far as production is concerned. I think that he is going to be a bit more aggressive because he saw how the Capitals struggled. I think he saw in what department or position that the Capitals struggled in, and I think that he will address that. One of the other things that was mentioned is it seems that Charlie Lindgren and Hunter Shepard are on a lock as number one and number two. Well, I wouldn't say that that is a for sure thing, as one of the things that Mike Vogel brought up that with Brian McClellan, and he said that I'll see what all options are. He doesn't rule out the possibility that the Capitals don't go out and get an established netminder, a veteran, maybe on a good deal. Charlie Lindgren, we know that he is ostensibly going to be the number one, and Hunter Shepard has shown glimpses of greatness. But maybe there's some question about the number two. What Brian McClellan did say is that he is going to give Charlie Lindgren the start of the season and see what he does with it. But I don't think that he is going to go too far into the season if for some reason Charlie Lindgren doesn't get off to the start that we saw him last season. So a lot of questions. I think there might be some surprises, some things I didn't anticipate, even though I had heard it from other people covering the sport, is the potential that the Capitals might in fact be in the market for a veteran netminder. Again, I don't really see that happening. I do, as a matter of fact, seeing it being Charlie Lindgren and Hunter Shepard or Clay Stevenson if he battles for the position. But interesting times to be a Capitals fan is this lineup could potentially get quite a bit different on July 1st. So talking about the draft strategy, while reaffirming confidence in their prospect pool, McClellan indicated the team's readiness to retain their 17th overall selection, provided that no significant opportunities arise, acknowledging the potential for unpredictability in the dynamic environment of the upcoming draft in Las Vegas. Again, must-see TV watching the draft. Of course, subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube or your podcatcher of choice, and I will be covering that. But it is going to be interesting to see what the Capitals do at the draft. I'll also have you guys covered on July 1st during free agency to see how crazy Brian McClellan gets. And when I say crazy, I guess what I mean to say is how much for the fences does he intend to swing? Does he intend to make small moves like he did last summer, or does he try to go all out and get a Jake Gensel or some upper echelon player like that? Exciting times for the Capitals, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we'll talk about Charlie Lindgren's achievements. He had a really great season for the Capitals last season, and it didn't go unnoticed. I'll discuss straight ahead. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And sports isn't done. In case you guys didn't know, Major League Baseball is still going, and there's the hometown Nats to bet on. So I don't want to hear any excuses about there's nothing to bet on. And FanDuel makes it so easy. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/locked on and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Charlie Lindgren killed it last season. He played so well that he bumped Darcy Kuemper out of the starting spot. Darcy Kuemper subsequently got booted out of town in a trade for Pierre-Luc Dubois and impressed. The whole season that he played, he was impressive. And it didn't go unnoticed. He was up for some awards. And let's talk about that in this segment. Charlie Lindgren has made a significant stride in his hockey career and has gained the recognition for his exceptional performance during this past season. The 30-year-old goaltender's standout play secured him the 12th place finish in the Hart Trophy voting, an accolade presented annually to the NHL's most valuable player as determined by the Professional Hockey Writers Association. His notable achievements also include receiving a third-place vote for the Vezina. That's quite a thing. An honor bestowed upon the NHL's top goaltender as voted on by the league general managers. Third, not too bad for a guy that just a couple years ago was a relative unknown in the National Hockey League. Talking about Lindgren's performance this past season, throughout the season, Lindgren demonstrated remarkable skill and versatility, transitioning from a backup to a bona fide starter for the Caps. His quick reflexes, adept puck tracking, and innovative style of play allowed him to excel in his new role, displacing Darcy Kemper as the team's primary goaltender. That wasn't sketched out that way. Darcy Kemper, the guy that won the Stanley Cup not so long ago, having appeared in 50 games, Lindgren boasted an impressive 25-16-7 record and a .911 save percentage and a 2.67 goals against, which contributed to the Capitals' successful return to the postseason. Notably, from January 16th onward, Lindgren led all NHL goaltenders in saves, 836, and minutes played in the regular season. So the accomplishments just keep rolling for this guy that played so well. He earned the right to be the number one in net for the Capitals next season. Quite a bit of questions surrounding Charlie Lindgren, as next season is the last season on his current contract. He's making $1.1 million, so he is not getting paid a substantial amount of money. But what is one of the things that we know is that if he does in fact get an extension, that he is going to get a raise. Of course, he played that well. And if he doesn't get a raise, he will seek green pastures. There is no doubt. So it depends on what Brian McClellan plans on doing. Does he plan on giving him a big extension, considering that the pipeline for the Capitals is fully stocked? The cabinets are stocked. You take a look at it: Hunter Shepard, Clay Stevenson, Garen Mitchell, Garen Bjorklund. You take a look at Antoine Keller. There are unlimited potential opportunities. I understand that they're not all necessarily NHL ready right now, but in the future they are. So, interesting thing for the Capitals and GM Brian McClellan, how he wants to proceed with Charlie Lindgren. I guess it depends on what kind of season he has in this last remaining year. Will it take all the way till the end of the season in order to get that extension? I think that if the Capitals see that he is on the verge of having another breakout season, they do the right thing and re-up him to a new deal. Because as much as I talked about the Capitals goaltending pipeline being full from here to the Mississippi River, not all of it is NHL ready talent. So sometimes it's easier to go on the sure thing, and the sure thing is Charlie Lindgren. Talking about future considerations here, as he enters his final year of his contract at $1.1 million, Lindgren's outstanding performance may warrant considerations for an extension, particularly after assuming the role of the Capitals' primary netminder. Taking a look at it, while Lindgren confirmed as the team's starting goaltender, the Capitals may seek to bolster their goaltending depth in the offseason by either acquiring an experienced goaltender or promoting Hershey Bears netminder Hunter Shepard to serve as the backup. Clay Stevenson may also vie for NHL time, although he is likely to benefit from more regular starts in Hershey. So Charlie Lindgren knocking it out of the park, like I've talked about on the show for the longest time. The Capitals have a long history of having really great netminders. Right now is no exception either. And a lot of times they're homegrown talent. And it was interesting that they decided to reel in Darcy Kemper a couple years ago. when they had potential talent in-house. I think that the Capitals at that time and Brian McClellan were so at the end of the rope with Samsonov and Vanacek, and when he didn't give either one of those guys qualifying offers, he was looking for that absolutely fresh start. So, you take Darcy Kemper from Colorado, and then you take Charlie Lindgren to this team, and it was just a total change, and I think that that was just like a knee-jerk reaction, a response to the poor season that the Capitals had in net for some time. So it's right now is the Capitals are in an excellent position. Kind of reminds me back to the Holtby Grubauer era where there's a 1 and a 1A. And, you take a look at Charlie Lindgren and Hunter Shepard. There's not a great disparity between either one of them. I would have zero problem at some point if Hunter Shepard was the number 1 and Clay Stevenson number 2. But I think that right now they're trying to maximize what they have. They are trying to maximize in a lot of different areas. We're talking the blue lines, we're talking forwards and in net, because this team wants to get back into competitive hockey and they want to make the most of the Alex Ovechkin era. So a lot of that starts with solid net minding. You can have the greatest goal scorers, you can have good blue liners, but if you have a goalie that can't stop a puck, well, that is going to deflate your tires quicker than anything. Capitals are lucky they got guys like Lindgren and Shepard in-house, not to mention Stevenson. But if they do happen to go out and make kind of a crazy move, in my estimation, by picking up a veteran, I hope it's the right decision. And I think it could do nothing but help bolster this team. Listen, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that listen on the audio side and watch this on YouTube. You are ultimately what makes this show successful. When you're done here, head on over to Locked On's 24/7 streaming channel, available on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app and on YouTube. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holney, and I'll talk to you again next time.